Hello, welcome to our meditation conversation. We will begin this week with a meditation. So let's settle into our seat, get comfortable, start tuning in to our body. Let's start with breathing technique. So first, become aware of your feet connecting you to the earth. Notice your legs above your feet. And feel your hips over your legs. Notice your torso stacking above the hips. Let's roll our shoulders up to our ears and down and back, allowing them to remain soft and relaxed while we sit. You can stack your neck over your shoulders, align the head over the neck. Maybe you want to slightly tuck your chin, reach with the crown of your head up to the sky. So let's start with a deep cleansing breath, taking a big full inhale and exhale, letting go of all our stress from the day. Let's do that one more time, taking a full inhale and exhale, letting go of the day, letting go of the evening ahead of you, just settling into this moment. So let's begin with a breathing exercise, samavriti, equal inhales and equal inhales. So we'll inhale to the count of 5, and then exhale to the count of 5. So inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue that breathing pattern on your own for the next few minutes as we sit. Slowly begin to deepen your inhale, bringing your awareness back into your body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and rejoin us. So how's everyone doing out there? It's kind of intense time right now. Just had a very powerful solstice on Sunday. Now we have the full moon tonight, which is continuing to crank up the energy. The solstice has been a time for shaking loose things from our life that are no longer serving us. And that can be a little bit jarring at times, a little can make you feel a bit uncomfortable, unsure what's going on, but usually it's all for the best. It's all the universe's way of helping us to let go of things that no longer are working for us. Maybe they worked in the past and we haven't been sure for a while, but so if something's been swept out of your life suddenly, it's probably for the best. And all we can do is just keep on going, keep on living, even if it's hard, even if it's painful, maybe a loss has occurred, but it's all part of our journey. It's all part of what's necessary for our growth and development. Okay, so the topic I wanted to talk about tonight is the first of a 3-part series on cultivating unconditional love. This is building on last week's topic about the new spiritual awakening, which is starting to sweep through humanity. And so you probably are aware of this on some level. You may not be sure that you may not be conscious that you're aware of it, but we all feel it one way or another. We're all feeling that something is going on. Since the pandemic, something shifted, something has broken loose. And for some people, for a lot of people, it's just triggering fear and anger. And there's lots of evidence out there on social media for that. But for other people, for probably people like you, if you're drawn to watch this video, it's triggering a spiritual awakening, a new wave of spiritual awakening, different from anything we've experienced in the past, but on the order of what we saw with the Enlightenment, when in a relatively short period of time, a new way of thinking swept through humanity, and we were able to shake loose from the bonds of feudalism and move on to capitalism, which was better than feudalism, and it worked for a while. But now, if you look around, it's still not working as well as it could for all of humanity. It's working really well for some people, kind of well for other people, but it's really still kind of screwing over a whole bunch of people. A bunch of minorities, a bunch of third world countries are getting the short stick right now. And so now we're embarking on a new change, which is going to bring something new. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I'm not an economist. I don't have expertise in how to organize human society, but it's going to be something different, something better, something based on unconditional love of ourselves, unconditional love of our lives, and unconditional love of the world, the rest of humanity, everyone in it. So those are going to be the topics for this 3-part series that we're starting tonight. Unconditionally loving ourselves, unconditionally loving our lives, the environment, the circumstances we find us in, and finally, unconditionally loving the world, everyone and everything in it. So tonight we will begin with unconditionally loving ourselves. And this is the most important step, most important part of this new love revolution. That's part of the new spiritual awakening. Learning to unconditionally love ourselves. And this can be tricky for a lot of people. It can be hard for a lot of people because many of us grew up exposed to messages that we're not worthy, we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're not worthy, maybe we're doing things wrong. For whatever reason, a lot of us grow up with these messages that we're not enough, we're not worthy of unconditional love. And it can be hard to overcome this lifetime of ingrained conditioning. And so the key to breaking through these messages of shame and unworthiness that we have internalized from our upbringing. So if we want to let go, or perhaps a better word is not just let go, but move through these feelings, is to embrace them, bring them out in the spotlight. So we hear lots of talk about thinking positive and cultivating gratitude, and your thoughts determine the world. So oftentimes we interpret that as that we just need to start thinking positive thoughts about ourselves. We just need to start loving ourselves, start thinking loving thoughts about ourselves. But we can't force ourselves to feel differently about ourselves. We can't just force our minds to think differently. That doesn't work. That just leads to repression, leads to spiritual bypassing, if you've heard that term, toxic positivity. When we just try to repress our negative feelings, they ultimately just get stuffed down inside and they come out sideways at some point, usually with lots of pain, anger, and fear. So repressing our negative emotions, even our negative emotions about ourselves, repressing those feelings never works out well. The better approach is to embrace those feelings, bring them out in the open, look at them fully, completely, shine the light of mindfulness on them and expose them for the bullshit that they are. That's how we can move through our feelings of unworthiness and shame, by mindfully examining these feelings and discovering that they are not true. So let's take feelings of guilt and regret. Does anyone feel guilt and regret for past decisions? Maybe we've made wrong choices that have led to pain for other people or pain for ourselves. Or maybe we feel like we're still making decisions that are sabotaging ourselves. We may feel we're preventing ourselves from living up to our full potential. And all that's natural. I feel all these feelings myself every day. But if we actually look at these feelings of regret and guilt and examine them mindfully and apply some of the latest research from cognitive scientists, from cognitive science, about how our brains work, how our minds work. If we look at these shameful, negative feelings through this lens of mindful self-examination, we can see them for the lies that they are. So let's start with guilt and regret. Maybe we have these lingering feelings of guilt for the things we've done in the past. But for behaviors that we've engaged in the past, or perhaps we are presently engaging in. So these behaviors, all our behaviors, so there's been a lot of research recently showing that all our behaviors are driven by thoughts. And so that's no surprise. But the surprising thing is that all of our thoughts, every single thought that we have, arises first out of a feeling. So feelings come up first. Feelings produce thoughts, and thoughts lead to behaviors. So there's a lot of evidence out there supporting this model of the mind. You can read Robert Wright's book, Why Buddhism is True. It's a great resource. I've talked about this in the past, about the modular model of the mind. So there's a fair amount of evidence to support this is actually how our minds work. We think that we're consciously in control of our actions, but in reality, our feelings control our actions. And so consider this. Do you choose to feel how you feel? Do you decide which feelings are going to pop into your mind? And in any given moment? Of course not. None of us choose how we feel. We don't get to decide how we're going to feel. We just feel. Feelings arise. Feelings arise when the conditions come together to produce a particular feeling. So this is an important concept from the idea of Maitri from Buddhism. The idea that when conditions come together for a feeling to arise, then it arises in our mind. And those conditions are three factors, determined by three factors. The first is our inherited personality tendencies that we innately possess within our brains, that we inherit from our parents. So these innate personality tendencies, that's the first factor. Number two is our upbringing and the experiences and conditioning we receive as we're growing up. These act in concert with our innate tendencies to determine and shape our personality as we grow. And the third factor is the present circumstances that we find us in. So we're born with these innate tendencies that are then shaped by our development. And then whatever circumstances we're in will elicit particular emotions in us, will elicit feelings in us based on our conditioning, based on our upbringing and our innate tendencies. So that's kind of the basic framework. Feelings lead to thoughts, lead to behaviors. And we don't choose our feelings. Feelings are determined by our innate personality tendencies, our upbringing, and our present experiences. So with that in mind, does it start to become easier to accept the choices we've made? Because so say for example, we have a thought to do something, engage in some behavior that a part of us knows is not going to be good for us. Maybe it's going to lead to pain or discomfort for ourselves or for other people. So we have this thought and we do it anyway. And we may think that it's because we're weak or we're sinful or we're bad people. But in reality, the reason we make those bad decisions, those poor choices, is because the underlying feeling driving them, driving the thoughts that bring about those behaviors, but that underlying feeling is too strong for us to override. And that feeling, like I just said, that feeling is determined by our innate personality, our upbringing, and the circumstances. So when we act in ways that we're not proud of, when we act in ways that we know are not living up to our full potential, that's because there are underlying feelings that are too strong, driving us towards these unproductive behaviors. And so the way to start making the right choices, the way to start living up to our full potential is not by trying to repress those feelings that which are already too strong for us to override. Instead, another alternative is to strengthen other feelings, such as the feeling of unconditional love in our heart for ourselves. Because when we strengthen the unconditional love, the feeling of unconditional love in ourselves, for ourselves, it begins to become easier to have thoughts and behaviors that further strengthen that feeling of unconditional love for ourselves. It creates this positive feedback loop. So I've talked before about how feelings, we have these modules in our brain, and feelings lead to thoughts, lead to behaviors. And so we can start to cultivate and strengthen an alternate module based on unconditional love. And it starts by just loving ourselves and accepting that all the mistakes we've made, all the weaknesses that we have, those don't make us bad people. So now we are still responsible for the decisions we make. We have to deal with the consequences of our actions. If our actions cause negative things to happen, we have to deal with the consequences of that. And we should strive to be better. We should strive to live up to our full potential. But punishing ourselves in hating ourselves, being angry at ourselves for failing is not the way to do that, not the way to break out of those unproductive patterns. Instead, we want to cultivate unconditional love for ourselves. And once we start to do that, once we start to love ourselves, that'll start to produce thoughts, self-loving thoughts that will lead to self-loving behaviors. And it creates an alternate module in our brain based on unconditional love. And pretty soon it becomes easier and easier to make those right decisions that bring more love into our lives and allow us to start living up to our full potential. And this is another way of saying this is how we can raise our vibration. If you've heard that term, I've always been puzzled by it, but Matt Kahn describes in some of his videos very well what that means. That so by increasing that feeling of love for ourselves, by building and strengthening that love, that unconditional love module in our brain, that's what it means to raise our vibrations, or raise our personal vibration, because it becomes easier and easier to do things that bring us more love and allows us to make those choices to become the people that we all know we have inside of us. So that's how we can cultivate unconditional love for ourselves and begin to join in this new love revolution and participate in the new spiritual awakening. Because the more people that become aware of this, the more people that start loving themselves and start cultivating unconditional love for the planet, the faster this awakening will spread, the wider the more people this new love revolution will reach. So we can all take part in this awakening by just loving ourselves, by cultivating a feeling of love for ourselves. So next week, we'll talk about cultivating unconditional love for our lives. And then the week after that, we'll discuss cultivating unconditional love for the world and other people. So in the meantime, let's work on a meditation that can help us feel unconditional love in our own hearts. So once again, let's settle into our seats, sit up straight, close your eyes, and settle into your body once more. Let's take one of those deep cleansing breaths, starting with a full inhale and exhale. One more of those, a deep full inhale and exhale. Now let's check in with our body, feel your body, become aware of this vehicle you're inhabiting. Now become aware of your heart in the center of your chest. Maybe you'd like to place your hands over it to help you feel it. Feel your heart there. You can think of it as your heart chakra if you're into that kind of thing. That's your heart. That's the seat of love in your body. Now let's try to imagine a time in your life when you felt intense love for anything, for a person, a pet, maybe a toy when you were a kid, or maybe a toy when you're an adult. Anything, whatever first comes to mind of the last time you felt a lot of joy and love in your life. Maybe it's a pet, maybe a puppy or a kitten, bringing love and joy into your life. Maybe your child. Maybe think about your child when they were a tiny little infant and helpless in your arms and just reflecting back to you unconditional love. or maybe the start of a relationship that you had, even if it turned to shit in the end. There's probably some times at the beginning when it felt good, when you just felt full of love. You felt it throughout your whole body. You're starting to feel that feeling of love. Yeah. Now take that feeling and direct it to your own heart. Just pour it into your own heart. Your heart deserves all that love that you felt. Your heart deserves that all the time. So this love that you're imagining, imagine it just seeping into your heart, bathing your heart in love and warmth and compassion. All the cracks that you've developed in your heart from all the pain you've suffered, all the wounds you've suffered. Just imagine that love filling in those cracks, seeping in to your cracks, enveloping your heart in warmth and compassion and healing. Now let's just cultivate that feeling. Just hold that feeling in your heart while we sit here for the next few minutes. Slowly start to deepen your inhale. Once more, coming back to the body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and rejoin us. So tonight was the first conversation on Zoom where I'm here by myself. No one else showed up tonight. My teacher always used to say that she taught because she had to. And even if there was no one in the room, she would still be doing what she was doing. So now I guess I know that the same is true for me. I'm doing this, although I don't consider myself a teacher, because everything I'm saying, you already know. Everyone already knows. This knowledge is already out there. That's what is making this new spiritual awakening possible. All this knowledge has been disseminated. Everyone knows it. People just need help feeling it, remembering it within themselves. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I don't know what else I would do. So yeah.